Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and the Incredible Hulk, issue number 2. Wow, I am loving this book, dude. This is really good. That said, this ending sucked. It is what it is, all right? It's literally one of those things where it's like, I loved every single part of it except when it ended. Not because it ended, but the way it ended. I'm going to get into all that good stuff after these messages. Anyway, this issue is called That Old Time Religion, Part 1. Interesting that this is issue number 2, but for the storyline, this is part 1. So the previous issue was what, a prelude? Okay, I'm down with it. Let's go. I don't think I've ever seen that in my life, but let's go. So Philip Kennedy Johnson, this monster amongst men himself, the writer. Nick Klein is the artist, and he did colors for page number 8, 9, 10, and 11, which is the dream sequence part, and it was freaking amazing colors. And that's not to poo-poo on Matthew Wilson, who's an absolute badass color in his own right, who did all the other color, all the other pages colors. Anyway, VC's Corey Petit on letters, and Nick Klein also did the cover art. Nick, listen, from me to you, love to get a commission from you one of these days, but that being said, freaking chill out, all right? Stop doing everything in the book. Are you going to write the damn thing also? Anyway, whole bunch of variant covers out there, which are not done by Nick Klein. And then, yeah, there's that. Also, don't forget, The Incredible Hulk was created by Stan Lee and Jack freaking Kirby, baby. So there's this chick in the beginning, and she's like, she got a Captain America backpack, but she's a dork. And she got beaten up by her dad, and yeah, lots of us got beaten up by our dads. It is what it is. So anyway, she got roughed up really bad. Plus, she's a chick. Let's be realistic. Like, if you're a dad and you're beating up on your daughter, you got some issues, all right? So I'm not discounting that, but this is a fictional character, so shut up. Anyway, she gets her butt kicked by her dad, and she comes over and she's talking to Banner, and she doesn't like Banner. She's calling him a nerd and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, I just want to see the Hulk because I don't know, she's got some kind of symbiotic relationship with the Hulk. Not really, but who cares? Like, honestly, at the end of the day, this is not a good person. This girl, not a good person at all. You want to evoke a monster and you're insulting the guy who kind of houses the monster. That's not cool. But I love the idea the Hulk is an absolute jerk in this. He's pissed off at Banner, and we get some ideas of why he's pissed off at Banner, what he did to Betty. Oh, I can't wait to see what that's all about. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm really curious what this is supposed to be about, because Betty is Banner's. Betty is not Hulk's, unless he's talking about something very specific that, like the harpy, like, oh, maybe he cured Betty from that harpy thing. That would be pretty interesting. If that's the reason why Hulk is going all savage again, that'd be awesome. This should really be the Savage Hulk. I mean, let's just be realistic. Anyway, there's this Khonshu looking thing in here, and I know it's not actually Khonshu, but if you didn't want people to be confused with the idea this might actually be Khonshu, maybe not have a whole bunch of monsters around and draw this big skeletal bird that looks exactly like freaking Khonshu, but with a couple of feathers on it, all right? I'm just saying. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying. So I'm loving this. The whole part where it's saying, like, what he did to Betty and whatnot, also, I noticed that there's some stuff going on in the sea. It looks like the Abomination's decapitated head, or at least a disembodied head. And then it looks like what could possibly be the head of, that wouldn't be Thunderbolt Ross. That looks more like the freaking Maestro to me, which is future Hulk. I'm curious what's happening here, but it's really cool. Excuse me, at one point in this dream sequence thing, you see Banner in a swamp, and it reminds me of the old Challenge of the Super Friends, because you remember that big thing, the big thing the Legion of Doom would be in? There's the Hall of Justice, and I guess it was like the Hall of Doom or something. I don't remember what the heck it was called, but it was like this big thing, and it had like these eyes on it. Looked like some kind of freaked out freaking Mazinger Z looking thing, right? Without the big red things on. Anyway, a giant Hulk comes out of the swamp, and I swear to God, I'm looking at this, I'm like, holy crap, I'll bet you Lex Luthor and Solomon Grundy are in there, because that's freaking amazing. Anyway, it gets out of this giant Hulk, and it's this really awesome dream, and it terrifies Banner, and I love it. I love it, because after what we just read in the previous issue, we're established that Banner is terrified of the Hulk right now. Usually just hates him, is like, F the Hulk, blah, 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 blah. But in this case, nah. Now, this does kind of detract from that a little bit in this issue, because he's actually begging the Hulk. They're going to hurt the girl. They're going to hurt the girl. But then Hulk is like, yeah, but first they're going to kill you. And exactly the way that Ewing was doing the Immortal Hulk, it's Banner's death that causes the Hulk to come out. Now, is that always going to be the case, or can he just get angry and Hulk comes out, just like in the day? I don't know, because the girl mentions it, but Banner's kind of like, he's not going to get mad, even though she's throwing rocks at his head. Like I said, she's not a good person by any stretch of the imagination. A cop shows up, and mind you, there's singing all throughout this, and I'm remembering this because the cop brings them to some cult thing. But I like the way it happened, and it's one of those things where it's like, I know there's probably going to be some people talking about why would they get in the car and da 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 da. The cop had his hand on his pistol, and I'm just saying in general, cop is a very specific job. It's a very scary job, right? Like in the military, people were terrified of me, right? Overseas. But at home, it's like, you got to play by the rules. Ha, ha, ha. Cops are supposed to play by the rules, but if you piss a cop off enough, you know what they're capable of doing. And they got the whole Batman utility belt thing going on. So it's like they got their choice of things that they're going to, could pull out on you. Plus, they got a partner who's going to go to bat for them, pretty much whatever. It's like cops can be really scary. In my opinion, cops can be scarier than a freaking giant Legion of Doom head looking Hulk. You know what I'm saying? Because that was yeah. What are you going to do? Honestly, what are you going to do? Right? The scariest thing about a cop is the badge, for crying out loud. What are you going to do except obey? That's what you're going to do. It is what it is. Anyway, before I go on, I gotta mention the art in this is amazing. I mean, the colors on pages 8 through 11 with Klein's drawings are out of this world. It looks like a genuine horror comic book, but drawn well and colored well. The rest of it, it's got the aesthetic, it's got the feel of a horror comic book, which I absolutely loved. I really loved this. There is nothing drawn in this comic book that I am not enamored by. Not a single thing. If you can find a flaw with the art, you might be reading into it too much, but that's okay. You're supposed to read into comic books. The message in this comic book of fear, of lingering terror. I don't know if you guys are into WWE at all. This had original Bray Wyatt-esque vibes, like the swamp dude and all that stuff with Sister Abigail, right? Abigail, I know you can't. Anyway, King Diamond, right? If Philip Kennedy Johnson was going for that version of Bray Wyatt, he did it perfectly and hands down. If I had to make any complaint about this book besides the last page, it's that they have Sister Sadie instead of Sister Abigail. I know you can't just use Sister Abigail, but Sister Sadie is an actual band. All right. So when you got singing all throughout the freaking comic book, right? And don't do that. When you're gonna make a comic book, don't put singing in a comic book unless it's just a couple of lines and it's just to set the flavor for those of us who know. If you know, you know. If you don't, you just skip over it and you just forget about it, right? But if you know the song, right? You're sitting there and you're reading a comic book and all of a sudden a couple of lyrics from like what's a good song like Stairway to Heaven show up, it's gonna be like, oh, okay, it's gonna be that kind of a song. If you see another one where like Pistol Grip Pump, a couple of lyrics are put out, you're like, oh, it's gonna be one of those kinds of comic books, right? It's good to set the mood, but when your whole comic book just has singing all throughout it, it started to make me like skip things, and I had to like scan really quick. It's like, anything important on this page? No, just sing. Okay, F you. And I would just move on. Even some of the parts where Sister Sadie herself was singing or saying or whatever, I'm just like, let me just skim through it really quick. Okay, good, whatever it is, what it is. Because I couldn't be bothered at this point. The singing was just way too much in this comic book, dude. You want to put some tablature in there and I could play it on my guitar also? Okay, maybe we can have this conversation. But for now, yeah, no, thanks. Appreciate, but nah. We good. The way this comic book ended with the ending, it took a while to get to the Hulk, didn't it? Only for that to happen. I kind of hope that the next issue is part 2 of 2, because I kind of want the story to end because I'm not into it that much. It's more of the feel of this comic book that I'm in love with. This feels like a genuine Hulk story. If you've ever listened to Jim Shooter or ever listened to me talk about Jim Shooter, how do I always bring this guy up, right? This is what the Hulk was originally meant to be. The Hulk is not a hero. Just as Banner says in this, he is not a hero. He's not a good guy. He's a bad guy. He's a terror. He's something. He's not a villain, but he's on a whole new level. No hero, no anti-hero, no villain. He's his own category of being. He's a monster in the most genuine sense of the word. This comic book, even more than the Immortal Hulk, really feels like that old take back on what Lee and Kirby originally intended for the Hulk. That he's just this monster that's going to tear through anything. And when he shows up, the bad guys get theirs, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everything is better for the Hulk having shown up. If things are bad, Hulk shows up and saves the day, well, that kind of makes him an inadvertent hero. Hulk is not a hero. There are many stories where Hulk's a hero where I actually dig it. But his original intent was that he's not the hero. When the Hulk shows up, technically, things get worse. Things that could have been solved with a simple fight or a simple, exchange of words or parlay or intimidation, whatever. Hulk shows up and just wrecking balls through everything. Miley Cyrus naked on the swinging thing and everything, right? It's not a good thing. It's not a good look. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to sit here and make fun of Miley Cyrus, but anyway. So I really did like this comic book. I hope the next issue actually gives me back that intrinsic feeling of the Immortal Hulk, right? But I really dig this. It makes me happier that Donny Cates had a little buffer in between the two good Hulks. Like, this is a good Hulk, and Immortal Hulk was a good Hulk. Donny Cates' Hulk was, in my opinion, the worst version of Hulk that ever existed. But it served its purpose. I would love to go into an alternate Earth 616 or an alternate Earth 1218, our Earth, where we're reading comic books. I would love to go into a different Earth where we get to see if Donny Cates never did Starship Hulk or whatever the Smashtronaut, Jesus Christ. Anyway, if nobody did anything in between Immortal Hulk and this more savage version of the Incredible Hulk, I'd love to see if there was no buffer in between, just dead space in between, right? Love to see what that would have looked like, how I would have felt about this comic book, genuinely in my heart. Because I do know that some of my love for this comic book is that it's not the Smashtronaut, but it is what it is. Guys, let me know what you think about the book. I genuinely enjoyed this. I'm still going to read the next issue. I'm kind of hoping that the story ends or at least starts to go someplace. I really hope that Sister Sadie and whatever this being is that she serves, this higher or lower primordial power, I don't necessarily need it to be Cthulhu, but I am hoping that it's something that Hulk has fought before, because they seem to indicate that Hulk has fought this thing before. And if it's going to be something where we have to dig into the Hulk's memory, right, that could go awry. But I'm at the edge of my seat waiting to see what's going to happen next. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed this also. And if you did, like the freaking video. Watch an ad. Talk to you guys later. Also, I'm going to have something big coming up soon, and I'm going to need y'all's support. All right? And that something is going to lead into other somethings. More on that later. This is kind of like a prelude to a pre-launch. What? Did I say too much? Talk to you guys later. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.